On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very special treat. He's a world-class speaker, serial entrepreneur, peak performance expert, best-selling author, and one of the top business moguls in the world. He's a passionate fitness enthusiast, role model, and beacon of hope and inspiration to millions. He's made a gigantic impact on this planet and has accumulated an abundance of wealth financially, mentally, and spiritually. He's done things his way, and he's a major force in the world of personal development. He's just an overall juggernaut in all facets of life and a phenomenal husband and father. Please welcome the dynamic, interesting, and iconic pulse of the Max Out movement, the special and unique Ed Mylett. How you doing, Ed?
I wish I was doing as good as that made it sound, but thank you for that intro. I need the playback of that for my kids so they can get it. But so thank you. That was very, very nice.
So lately, I've been really big into manifesting and so forth. I've been manifesting, giving you that intro for quite some time, brother. So I'm happy I did good by you.
One of the best of all time, brother. That was awesome.
Listen, brother, it's your life. You wrote it, Ed.
Well, I didn't write that intro, but like everything in the world today, including social media, probably seems better on the outside than it always does on the inside. But it's certainly cool to hear some of that stuff back, because you just live every day. You don't realize that maybe you made a little bit of progress. So it's good to hear.
Yeah.
From you.
Good. I'm glad to hear you say that. And look, we just hit 1 million downloads. The audience loves to get a background and so forth, but we're going to jump around a little bit. But before we start, we're going to get a little weird. You ready to get weird, Ed?
Dude, I get weird. I get down and I get weird. Let's go.
What is your superpower, brother?
Superpower. Reading people. Caring and reading people. I'm pretty good at being present with another human being, reading them and finding their giftedness, their greatness, their genius, the Christ in them, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty good at that. I don't have a lot of superpowers, but that is definitely, I'd say, my main one. And by the way, if I might add, born out of adversity, everything in your life happens for you, not to you. I really have that skill because when I was little, my dad was an alcoholic. That's a pretty well-known part of my story. And I would have to, 4 or 5 years old, I'd have to read my dad when he came through the front door. Was this, as a little boy, 4 or 5 years old, I could tell, is this drunk, maybe a little bit aggressive dad where I'm going to keep mom and my sisters away from him? Or is this sober dad and he's going to come in and we're going to play catch and have a great time laughing? So I started reading people really, really young. So it was that skill, that superpower was born out of pain.
Yeah, and I love that you touch upon that because the audience is going to find such value in that. And as a fan of yours, two things. I did the homework because, number one, I want to show you the respect this conversation deserves. And also because I'm a huge fan. I know that part of your story. And also just listening to your podcast and so forth, you're so intuitive. Like you read people so well and you can read the energy even through a screen, let alone be with them in person.
Yeah, well, I don't know that we don't share that. I told you before we started that I think you do an incredible job doing this. As more I've watched your work, and I think it's because you're great at listening and reading people as well. And so it's something we probably share in common.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother. And also another thing that I'm working on, I know you're very good at too, is being empathetic.
Yeah, I've worked on it, but I think also just because of my upbringing, that's something that comes relatively natural to me. Is just my dad, ironically, is such a role model or some, central figure in my life. When he was drinking and when he was sober, my dad ended up being sober for, 3 or 4 decades, but he was always he was a man. What I loved about my dad was he was a masculine man, but he was so caring and loving of people and understanding and patient and non-judgmental that I definitely feel like I picked that up from my dad, that I have this weird duality to my personality as well, where, I really believe that the strongest people are the kindest. They're the most comfortable with themselves. They don't have to flex any parts of their personality, to move someone away. They're strong enough to pull people closer and be empathetic to them. And so I'd like to think that that's something I do. I do so many things poorly, but I think those are both things that I actually do pretty well.
The way you worded that is gripping, brother. And also it's so true. And everyone knows gratitude's a superpower, right? It's in all the spiritual texts of the last, millions of years. But kindness also, like you just said, when you do an act of kindness, it releases serotonin in the body for both the person performing the kindness act and the person receiving it. So I love that you touch upon that.
Absolutely true. So it's one of the only things you can do that impacts you the same as it impacts the other person, or even can be magnified. You're exactly right.
I knew there was going to be synergy here today, but this is really exciting. I'm super stoked for this, brother. Ed, what is something weird about you that a lot of people might not know?
Wow. There's a huge list of those.
Same.
Probably the weirdest thing about me is I danced in college. Most people don't know that.
Come on.
I love to dance. I paid my way. And I didn't strip, but I paid my way. I had a baseball scholarship. So two things paid for college. Baseball, I had a baseball scholarship. And I danced at a club. I was a male dancer at a nightclub. No one knows this crap.
Nobody.
For like 3 years, man. So yeah, I danced and I actually toured with some hip hop bands when I was younger. And so that is something super weird about me. And you get me at a wedding, I will bust out the best of the early 90s moves you have ever seen in your damn life. So that's something super weird about me. My kids, my wife just freak out because everything I've got is at least 20 years old, any move I've got, but I'm damn good at them. I just watched, well, your audience is too young, but trust me, you want to know how the people dance in the 90s, get to a wedding, find me, and you'll figure it out.
You're full of surprises, brother. And what's so funny is my audience is going to go nuts when they know you were on the show, and they're gonna ask me, "What's the juiciest thing that you found out about Ed?" And in my head, I'm gonna say he danced in college. Who knew? And I listened to a lot of your work. I never heard you say that before.
I don't know. I probably have said it somewhere at some point, but yeah, I did. And a couple of the band acts that I toured with were actually pretty well known at the time. So yeah, most people don't know that. And I certainly don't look like I would do that anymore, nor should I.
Yeah. This is awesome. With all the cool things that you got going on, all the different seasons and chapters throughout your life so far, at this point right now, Ed, what makes you feel most alive?
That's easy. I'm really clear on that. I love contributing. I love connecting with people. I love feeling like I've made a difference. It's the only thing that's never gone away. Meaning that the joy of like, wow, I bought a car or I bought a jet or I bought a house. Those things they're awesome. I want everyone to experience that. I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean as we talk right now. I live right on the beach that I grew up on, living kind of not hood, but lower middle class. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife from high school, we'd walk down the actual beach that I live on. Now I go, hey, babe, someday I'm going to get us a place there. I had no idea how I was going to do it. All that's awesome, but it fades on you. Any of you got a new pair of shoes, a new car. It's amazing at first. And then over time, you're like, all right, I got the shoes. So the thing that's never faded is contributing, is giving, is like, man, I made a difference for another human. And I know it sounds like super hokey, but like I truly love it. I feel the most alive. I feel like that's what I was born to do. I feel closest to God when I'm doing that. I feel closer to other human beings, like you said earlier about kindness. And so I work really hard at improving me so that I am more valuable to other people or more people. For example, in a year, if we came back and you interviewed me again, I just think the same things, operate the same way. I'm the same person. I'm not of the same value to you or your audience or anybody else as I am now, because it's hopefully a different version of me next year, an improved version. So what causes me to want to grow, the catalyst used to be to get recognition or accolades or money or that. Now what causes me to want to grow is the service of another human being. And that's a never ending sort of catalyst to make me want to do it.
Yeah, I love this, brother. This is gold. And thank you for being just, radical honest right there. Because we all crave validation at some point, but to come full circle and now it's all about contribution. That's what makes you feel most alive. That's just beautiful. And because I'm such a fan, I know something that your wife used to say to you, or probably maybe even still does, is people matter, things don't.
Yeah. She does say that, and I stole it, and I use it all the time now. It's funny what you said earlier. I want to tell you one interesting thing that just happened to me. Rob Dyrdek's a good friend of mine, and I know that you guys have connected, right?
Yep.
So, and we're in a business together. And when we first met, I love him. He's one of my favorite people in the world. When we first met, we're like, hey, what's your dominant need now? And I'm like, well, when I was younger and immature, it was recognition and significance. Now I'm all about contribution and growth, And he goes, me too. I'm all past that significance thing. And we were at a Rams game together with our wives, and our wives sat in between us and we sat on the other end, and we kept talking around them the whole game, and he finally goes, dude, we're liars. I go, because we're watching these football guys jump up and down when they would score. Right. And he goes, dude, let's just be honest. We're still recognition freaks. We're still addicted to it. We just get our recognition now by contributing. And I'm like, wow, dude, that's absolutely true. It's not that I don't want acknowledgement or recognition, but the way I feel acknowledged and recognized is by contributing to somebody. But certainly acknowledgement and recognition significance isn't gone. I don't know that you ever outgrow that.
Yeah.
We were trying to pretend we did initially, and he was right.
First of all, I love Rob. He's hilarious. He's great. And I didn't know until we recently connected just how deep he was. And I love that. And of course, the synergies here. But it's so true what you just said. Like, you get that validation when someone lets you know that you made an impact on them, as opposed to maybe when you're younger and, you got a new car or something like that.
Precisely. That's exactly right.
Yeah. This is great, brother. I can't wait to ask you this one. I'm just so curious because I've asked some of the world's greatest, and everybody has a different answer for this one. Ed, what is your definition of success?
It's a tough one. It's a difficult question for me because it's meant different things to me at different times. But I think for me now, and I'm just, I'm 50 years old, man. So success.
50 years young.
50 years young. You're right. I mean, I do feel young, by the way. In fact, I feel like I'm probably more fit and healthy than when I was 30, like truly. But I would say that the definition of success for me is that in my case, that I am becoming the man I'm capable of becoming. You know that I have this theory that I'm on that path, that when I die, God's going to introduce me to the man he created me to be. The places I could have gone, the people I could have helped, the memories, the contributions, the emotions I could have experienced, the moments. And for me, success is I'm in alignment with pursuing that person ultimately. Lack of success, in fact, I think that's heaven. When you die, you meet that person you were capable of being born to be, and you're identical twins. If when I meet Ed Mylett, the one God created, and we're total strangers, that's hell. So to me, success is heaven, and heaven, to some extent, beyond the normal things about heaven, is that I meet this man I was capable of becoming, that I, for the most part in my life, went down the roads, made the choices, the decisions to pursue that person. And when I got off track, which I do, I got back on the right road more often than not. And to me, that's success, because ultimately, if I become that man, the people around me that matter to me are loved, are safe, are appreciated, are blissful, are peaceful when I'm in the best pursuit of that being me. So most decisions I make are like, does this get me closer to that guy I'm capable of becoming, or does it not? And I mean, everything down to like doing your show today. Almost everything eventually goes through this barometer. Is this the road to me being that guy someday when I finally pass away, meeting the one God made, or does it move me further away? Sometimes I make the wrong choice. Sometimes I make a decision consciously that's the wrong one. But I like to think I've got this kind of true north I'm heading towards, which is that man. And that's success to me every single time.
Yeah, I love it. I'm laughing because I just love you so much, buddy. And it's so true. And I know you call this like blissful dissatisfaction or something like that. You have a sense of urgency, and I do too. And when I left Wall Street at the beginning of the pandemic, and I just had this moment, and it was very deep, but I thought to myself, like, if it was my funeral in a couple of weeks, like, what kind of impact did I really live? Like, yeah, I was successful from a monetary standpoint, but did I put a dent in the universe? Did I touch lives? And at that point, I wasn't satisfied. And so now that I'm doing this, and I just love this stuff so much, in case you couldn't tell, I just feel so alive. But the bottom line is that it's just, there's a sense of urgency. Every second I want to make count. And I'll just like you articulate it better than anyone ever see. Like, you want to stay on that path and make sure that, like, when you get to the end, we also have another mutual friend, Joe DeSenia, the founder of Spartan.
Sure. I love Joe.
Yeah, something that he says that, and it just made me figure that when you were talking about this, like, when you get to the end of your life, like, you don't want to be like fresh out of the dealership, like perfect condition, right? You want to have lived and like went through it and give it your all.
Right until the wheels come off, man. And that urgency, I find that there's just certain humans that are in a bigger hurry. And I like being around them. They vibrate at a higher frequency. Their energy level's different. Their pace is different. And so I have friends from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, but most of them have that hurry thing in them, that urgency thing in them. And the bottom line is that life, your experience on earth is an emotional experience. You are the sole totality of the emotions you experience on a regular basis. So if when you were on Wall Street, even if you were balling, even if you were making money, even if you were in the best clubs, the best restaurants, the best whatevers with the coolest people, if what you were experiencing emotionally was angst, anxiety, frustration, depression, anger, worry, then you're losing. And very similarly, if now you're experiencing passion, peace, fulfillment, contribution, joy, then that's the win in life. And so it's not, I always say, it's really easy when someone's very wealthy to go, money doesn't matter. Look, I've been happy rich and happy poor. Happy rich is 1,000 times better. Be happy rich financially. It's way better, right?
Way
better.
The
bottom line is that I know a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of money whose emotional home is anger, worry, frustration, paranoia. And that's their emotional home. Their life sucks. And I know other people who don't have a lot of money. I have a sister who's diabetic. She's blind. She can't drive. She's a school teacher. She makes $40,000 a year. And her emotional home, for the most part, is love, peace, joy, passion. She's a winning human being, right? So it's the emotions you get on a regular basis that dictate the quality of your life. And so that's what we should all be chasing. Even if you're listening to this, take that inventory.
Yeah.
What is your emotional home? Is it the good ones? Not good or bad, but is it the ones you want or the ones you don't want?
Yeah. And not to sound, first of all, the audience, run that back and play that again and whip out the journal. But guys, stop back. We're going to, we have 2 shots at this thing called life. And that depending upon your religion or what you believe, whatever the case may be, we have, not to sound too cliche, but we don't get to do this twice. So,
you know what the deal is? Here's what I found out. My dad died about a year ago.
I know he did.
And when you watch your father, I was with my dad taking his last breath. I was there. And you think about all the things my dad wasn't worried about in those moments. He wasn't worried about some promotion he didn't get or some hater or some other. What matters is these people around you. But you know what I found out, man? Most people think everyone else is going to die someday. They don't think they're going to die. They actually the happiest people I know actually contemplate the end of their life because it causes them to live now. And so, listen, there's going to be a time in all of our lives where we have 1 year left, 1 month left, 1 week left, 1 hour left, 1 breath left. That's going to happen to all of us. And by the way, it's going to happen to the people that you love. So make them proud of you now. Enjoy them now. Win now. Get in a hurry now. Because you don't know when that 1 year is. You don't know when that 1 week is. And it's a gift that you have it. So the contemplation of the end makes you appreciate the now. There's nothing wrong with that. I think more people should do it. Think about who you want to ultimately be when the story of your life, the final chapter, ends. Yes. And right now, if it ended, are you happy with all the chapters in their totality when your great-grandchild comes along to read about you? Or are you like, no, you know what? I need to hurry up and write some better chapters. Yeah. And you and whatever your God is, whatever you believe or no God, are the co-authors of that book. And you at any time can decide to emerge. I'm a new character. I'm writing a new chapter. There's a new script. I'm operating with more power, more passion, more juice, more joy, more kindness, more confidence. You can decide that at any point. It's simply a decision to play a new character and step into that human.
I love when you get fired up and passionate. You're on absolute fire and you can't be stopped.
I mean these things.
I know you do, Ed. I know you do. And also, right, talk about awareness and mindfulness, something that I've really been working on. And just like you just said, treat this conversation we may never have the privilege to speak again, or we don't know what tomorrow brings. Just to be 100% aware and mindful and present, so to speak, does so much for relationships.
Scarcity is value, what you're saying, right? So when you think you have 1,000 more conversations with your mom or dad or your significant other or your children or your best friend, it's not so valuable. But what if you treated it like it was the last one? What would you say? What would I give right now for 1 more conversation with my dad? And how much more precious would it be just to have 1 more time to talk to my favorite dude of all time? Man, you think I'd be checking my phone? You think I'd be going to text message? You think I'd be worried about my next meeting? And so the more scarce something is, the more valuable it is. Start to treat more things like you have. In fact, I have a book coming out in April called One More. And the whole book is about how you build your life around doing 1 more rep, 1 more call, because you truly are 1 decision, 1 relationship, 1 meeting away from a completely different life. And if you started to treat every one of those relationships, every one of those meetings, as if you only had 1 more of them to make, they become more valuable to you. And so I'm completely with you on that.
Yeah, 100%, buddy. And there couldn't be more alignment right here. The only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat right now. In regards to that book, can people pre-order it right now?
No, not yet. Probably thing you do is go follow me on Instagram or go to my website, put your email in there at edmylett.com. But it's not ready yet. We've written it. The publisher has it. We just haven't got to that stage yet.
Okay. But when it comes out, the audience is going to be all over that thing.
Have me back on.
Of course, I would love to, buddy. And also, like, I always love to do a background so the audience gets a feel for the journey and so forth. But even based upon what you just said, like, we'll get you back on a sequel for that. I just want to just continue this conversation because it's just straight up, it's just so moving. You talk about the power of intention, your intent to be happy. And I think that's so deep and valuable for the audience because, and like we both said earlier in the conversation, we didn't always have the happiness that we do now. Talk about the intent to find happiness.
Well, I think more people need to give themselves credit for their intent. So I've kind of evolved on that to where, like, I'm not chasing happiness, meaning I don't believe that happiness is something external to you have to go get. I think it is you. I think it's when we get separated from ourselves and we lose ourselves that we lose our happiness. I don't want to be overly hokey about this, but yeah. I am happiness. I am bliss. My natural state and yours is to be happy. When you were a baby and you were born, there was a blissfulness. You've learned to be unhappy. You've been programmed with these negative emotions and thoughts most of the time through people who loved you. There's unintentionally installed their programming in you. You know, like my dad, wonderful man, but it was always like, be careful. You know, be careful. Like I should be like when I was 40 years old and I would talk to my dad, we would hang up. I go, hey man, I love you. Dad goes, I love you. Be careful out there. I'm like, yes. What the hell? Like what an installed program to be careful. I can relate. And so no wonder one of my emotions was worry. No wonder. My dad 3 billion times has told me to be careful in my life. Right. So I think that happiness is who you truly are. It's these other things that are getting in the way of it. Now on intention, and there's a long story about that I'll tell another time that I met Wayne Dyer, a guy who wrote a book when he was at the time called The Power of Intention. When you want more self-confidence, yeah, you need to be better at something. Yeah, self-confidence is the process of keeping the promises you make to yourself. I've taught all that. Okay. And that's a whole other conversation. But one thing not enough people give themselves credit for is their good intent. In other words, a lot of my self-confidence comes from the fact that I think I'm a good man. And if I walked into a business meeting, I intended to do good, which means we should make business happen. And not enough people listening to this are like, you know what? I'm a good woman. I'm a good man. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to get this sale. I deserve to be wealthy. I deserve to help other people because of my intent. My confidence comes from I'm a good person. I intend to do good. I make mistakes, but there's grace in life.
We all do.
For a reason.
Yep.
More of you need to give yourself credit for the fact that you intend to do good and your intentions are good, and remind yourself of that when you struggle with your confidence. That's a huge factor to confidence is your intent.
Huge, brother. And it's so funny. You speak it to my soul. Like my dad, my best friend in the world. And also he's battling cancer right now. And I keep him positive. And, you know, every conversation I treat like you said earlier on, but something that, and I ran the New York City Marathon 4 weeks ago, and leading up to the race, I was injured going into it, but I started to feel good and I was confident. But at the end of every single phone call, be careful, Craig, in the race. If you ever feel like you need to stop, like, really? Dad, positive vibes only, please. But I know exactly what you mean.
Well, number one, I want to say that I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope that he turns it around. And two, he must be so proud of you, brother.
Thank you, buddy.
So proud of what you're doing. It's wonderful you were able to do this while he still is here, and then he can see the man you're becoming. So that's beautiful. That's
my mentality. Exactly. He lives for this stuff every day, and any new developments and so forth. And he's a fan of yours. So I can't wait to tell him you were on the show.
Hello, please, from me. And you know, what's your dad's name, by the way?
Don.
I'll say a prayer for your dad tonight.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. This is, again, I wish we had 15 hours for this, but we'll get you back for a sequel. Another thing that you always speak about, which I think is huge for the audience, is being around people who raise or maybe not your thermometer or your thermostat. A lot of people have a lot of negative influences in their life. How do you cut people out like that? And what's the best suggestion to people to just strictly surround themselves with people that raise that thermostat?
Well, yeah, the thermostat setting is the identity on your life. So, you know, I've talked about this. If you're a 75 degreeer and you start to get 100, 150 degrees of results, you'll find a way to cool your life back down and get it where the thermostat setting is. The number one guide to the thermostat is the people that you're around. You've all heard this. You are the totality of the 5 people you're around, blah, blah, blah. It's way bigger than that. And that's that I don't want friends who accept me as I am. I want friends who set a standard for me and have high expectations for me. Your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. Let me say it again.
Yes.
Your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your friends, of your peer group, what they expect of you. And so I'm not a little bit fanatical about that. I'm a psychopath about surrounding myself with people that have high expectations of me, that live at higher thermostat settings in certain areas that I want to grow in. Like about 3 years ago, just faith and spirituality became much more important to me.
Same.
So that's awesome. So what did I do? I had to find me a group of people who lived at a level that was so high on the thermostat setting of that I couldn't help but get heated up by being around them. So this is a huge factor in your life, is who you're around. How do you get rid of them? I have a hard time just going, you're out of my life. I just create distance.
Same.
You know, it's just they're further away. The gap in communication becomes more pronounced. Maybe their text message doesn't get returned quite as quickly as it used to. The phone calls are shorter. You know, the meetings are longer in between until there's just a fading. And by the way, all your life, people have faded. You're not around the 10 people you were around in high school now every day. Maybe there's one, maybe there's two, there's probably none around you. So people fade in our lives. That's the natural process. So I just have them sort of fade rather than cut them out. Now, if someone's antagonistic towards me, lies to me, is outwardly against me, their ass is cut out. That's different. Yeah. You're gone. Don't ever call me. You're blocked. You're away. But most people are supposed to be in your life for seasons, not the entire journey. There's a very small group at 50 years young that have been in my life for the entire journey. The other ones were there for seasons and stages. And that's the beautiful part of spirits and souls interacting and connecting with one another in their time. And what you have to ask yourself, is the season over or is it not? Yeah. Perhaps the season's over for where that relationship in that amount of proximity no longer serves you like it used to, or maybe them.
Yeah, I love this. And let me know if you know a good surgeon. You have to surgically remove the smile from my face right now. It's so true. And even like, as you were just explaining that, like the text message responses get a little slower, the meetings in between get a little, it's almost like it's nothing personal. You're just like outgrowing them, and it just is what it is. And for the audience listening, like, we know everybody can relate to this. It's okay. Like, just because someone was in your life at an early stage doesn't give them a pass to be there forever. Like, people outgrow and so forth. So I love that you touched upon that.
Yeah, well, even think about this. My children were given to me to be in my home for about 18 to 20 years. Hopefully that's it, right? And then there's a season where my children go in and they have their own homes. So that's the natural part of life. Yep. So the distance and proximity with people. Now, I got closer to my dad in that relationship as I got older, but still the proximity is different. So you shouldn't feel guilty when someone's just fading from your life. It's a natural process. Yeah,
I love this, brother. And I have to ask you, because again, some more synergy. Like, I recently got significantly stronger in my relationship with God and my faith, and so to speak. And I know you touch upon that a lot. How significant and important is that for you today?
It's the most important thing now to me. And by the way, I'm not preachy about faith. It's like, in fact, the thing that kept me from faith was preachy, judgmental people. And I, no matter what your beliefs are, I'll just share you with mine. Whatever, I believe in personal relationships with whoever your God is. For me, it's Jesus, but it's a personal relationship. I'm not a really religious person, meaning I don't love all organized religion, although I do go to a church. But I think the organizational structures of a lot of these things get in the way of that relationship with God and the people. Like we were saying today when we're recording, this won't come out then, but Joel Osteen's on my show today. I've had other pastors on. I've had mystics on. I've had, psychics on. I've had different people of different faiths on because I'm interested in it. But for me, the centerpiece of my life, my comfort, my peace comes from my faith. And I'm a really weird dude that I'm a science guy also. So, and I think more and more that'll become less weird. In fact, the quantum field, energy, vibration, that part of my life has strengthened my faith, so to speak. And so I just believe there's a God so big that created this quantum field and created this energy and this vibration. But if you're someone who believes in the quantum field and energy, I'm your dude. That's my jam. I live on energy. I live on vibrational frequency. Yeah. You're a person of more devout faith. Another way, I'm also in that camp. And I don't believe one negates the other. In fact, I don't know what the heck happened where you could only be one or the other. It's very bizarre to me. It's very obvious to me that there's an energy field we can plug into. We feel and sense energy all the time. We're always making people feel something. Energy is the realest thing we could actually touch in our lives. Same time, I'm a believer of a faith that's of a God that's bigger than that. At least for me personally, that's where my comfort, my guidance, my strength, my wisdom, oftentimes my words seem to come from. And so it's the center part of my life.
This is straight riveting, and it's so true. Like, I'll be honest with you, this whole spirituality stuff and the quantum, I've been a little skeptical of it for the last couple of years. I was always like a mindset guy, and so to speak, but anything that was beyond my senses, I just had trouble buying in. But make a long story short, they found a tumor in my foot that I had to get removed when I was I was about to run the New York City Marathon. I got it taken care of. It's benign, thank God. But leading up to the marathon, I was running it to inspire my pops and raise money for American Cancer Society. So it was a bigger cause than me. Wow. But I didn't have the physical training that you obviously want to have going into 26.2 miles. So that's when I really bought in and started tapping into all this quantum stuff, the energy, your thoughts are an electrical signal and all this stuff. And I ended up running a PR, the fastest I ever ran in my life. And now I can't get enough of talking about this type of stuff.
But by the way, it's wonderful you did that. And isn't it cool when you're vibrating at a high frequency, how things are drawn to you that are bizarre? Like when you're really vibrating at a high frequency, when I am, it's like you have more of those things that's happened to everybody. Like you're thinking about somebody you haven't talked to in 2 years, the next day they call you, right? Yep. Or you're picturing something and you see it the next day on television, or just things start to, you use the word manifest earlier. These are real things. And the other thing that faith or believing in energy gives you is humility, meaning, look, I'm a do-it person. I'm maybe the king on earth of how to program your mind and how to think straight and mindset and action and all that. I'm all that, right? I'm huge on it, right? But what gives me some humility is to know I'm not this good, right? I've had to have some blessing, some favor, some energy, some force is also working in my favor on behalf of me. And that's what allows me. I'm just a man. I make mistakes. I'm weak. I can be lazy. I can get off course. I can sin. I've done all kinds of stupid things in my life. I've made terrible decisions at different times. I've lied before. I've done I've hurt people unintentionally. Like I'm a man, right? And that I'm a human. And that, by the way, should give everybody hope that an average, ordinary person like Myeltt, like me, can produce extraordinary results if you do work on you, if you do understand energy, if you do have some faith and some humility, if you do have the right people around you, if you do work on your awareness and your intention and your self-confidence, you can build a pretty remarkable life and be a pretty happy person and help other people.
And that's what it's all about, right? Contributing. And pretty remarkable is an understatement for you, brother. And it's so funny because I asked Rob Deerdeck the same question and his face lit up like a Christmas tree. I know he could talk about quantum stuff for hours. Simply put, for the audience out there that might be skeptical or not really understand what that means, like the quantum field, how would you describe that? What does it mean to you?
I'll make it easier. I said it earlier. Do you believe in energy? So here's what I would ask you. Have you ever met someone and go, ooh, their energy doesn't feel right? You ever had that feeling?
Of course.
What is that? They didn't say something. They didn't do something. You felt something. Conversely, you've met someone before and you're like, I like them. Right? I like them. There's something about them. I feel good. I feel home with them.
I want to be around them. Yeah.
I want to be around them. And energy is really a frequency. It's a vibration. It's something that you can tap into. And so for me, it's a greater understanding. It's a peaceful state. For me, it's emptying my mind and being open to being quiet and then moving back to it and not judging myself when my mind sort of drifts a little bit. And so for me, when I get very quiet, just for me personally, I've never even said this before the way I'm going to say it. I do end up feeling connected to a power greater than me. And I love how that feeling is. In fact, it'll make me emotional to talk about it. And so Good. I do have this other part of me. Have you ever had an experience where you're like, man, I'm in flow? I just feel like, man, I don't even know where these words came from. I was just like, there was no ums, there was no hesitations. I just was like, wow. And you walk out of the meeting, you're like, that was damn good, right? That was you being plugged into that energy field and frequency. You've also had times you're like, I can't get it going. What's wrong with me? I'm lethargic. I can't process my thoughts. Everything's slow today. You're away from the energy. You're away from the quantum field. And usually it's, without being much deeper than this, it's really a heart thing. It's really your heart getting connected to the most beautiful place you can go to get information, wisdom, words, ideas. And I love that part of my life because I don't want to believe that this thing just ends. What is the purpose of being here if you're just a body that dies and it's over? Ever since you were all little boys or little girls, it's a question you've had. And it's a question you have even right now. Even the most faithful people, there's a little bit of a question. Why is that question on your heart? Why is that? Because I think one of the purposes of being here is to discovering your personal answer, not mine, not someone else's, not Joel Osteen's, not Joe Blow's, yours. And the more you give yourself the gift of just contemplation of that, some peace about it, the happier you'll be. And the more you'll feel purpose to your own life. I know this is way deeper than I thought we would go.
Oh, brother, this is the best.
I love that journey of exploring and growing and learning, and the experience of being in that state of high vibration is the best feeling in the world.
Ever. Ed's got nuggets today. But you mentioned deep, like, aren't these the best conversations, the most stimulating? Like, these are the types of conversations that are going to leave an impression on someone. And I love that we're getting this deep, brother. And it's so true. Like, I've asked some really successful people, John Asroff from The Secret, obviously Rob and so forth, people that are in this frequency all the time. But the way you personally just articulated the quantum field, I think is the simplest to understand. And it's like you just said, like, you ever like bump into somebody, like their vibe is off or their vibe is on. I want to spend more time around them. Like, it's all connected.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, both those guys have been on my show, and people ask me, what do you and so talk about when you're together? I'll see you guys on. To be honest with you, a lot of this.
Yeah, same.
These are major dinner conversations. These are major life conversations that I have with my closest friends. That's an ongoing discussion that we have on a really regular basis.
I love this stuff. I don't watch that much TV anymore, if I'm being honest. Because, I'm just doing this and interacting and building and making an impact, hopefully. But this is the type of stuff, like, I call it sharpening the axe, right? Like, this isn't work to me. Like, I'm not working right now. I'm having an unbelievable conversation with you and expanding our capacity and so forth. Yeah.
100% agree, man. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, this is great. And when you find that alignment for the audience, like, it's funny because we talked earlier about money doesn't equal success, so to speak. But when you find that alignment in your heart and you do a really good job of it, the irony is the money comes.
Can I say one thing that I didn't say that I think is powerful about the quantum field, or just plugging into energy? You're getting quiet. There's a duality in life that's something that everyone's trying to navigate. And it is that, your most successful people are very outcome focused. I've got goals. I've got a vision. I've got what I want. And it's a matter of holding that vision of where you want to go and what you want to do, but to some extent surrendering to the outcome and letting it come to you, letting it materialize. It doesn't mean go chase things. It doesn't mean bust your ass. You should. But it's this really unique nuance that as you grow in it, you'll begin to understand of having very clear outcomes and a vision, but a surrender to the process, a surrender to the journey, an enjoyment of where it may take you to get there, and a little bit of separating from outcome, ironically, that reduces the pressure and allows inspiration, allows ideas, allows energy to become part of your space. And sometimes this pursuit, this aggression, this me, creates a block to that kind of wisdom and understanding. And it's when you begin this process of learning these things, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's that in that balance, that space between vision and goals and separating from outcome, which I'm loving talking about right now. That is the space of bliss. It's the space of bliss.
I'm so happy that you went back to bring that up, because I just learned this lesson myself. 3 months ago, I was at a big speaking engagement. I got injured and I was training for the Chicago Marathon at that time. And I was talking about it. Like, I can't wait to shock the world and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit from an ego standpoint, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I got the tumor situation, got the surgery, got the crutches, stitches and all that. And then I just, screw all that. Like, I'm going to run New York. If I just have an opportunity to get to the start line from my pops to raise money for cancer, forget about Craig. And what happened? We got there, we ran the fastest we ran, and we had such a good experience. But it felt like a story arc to me. Like, detach the outcome and like have the intention. Of course, you want to show up and do great, but then detach. Yeah. And I learned such a valuable lesson. You just nailed it.
Well, you nailed it. And that's a perfect story. And a lot of the athletes that I work with, I coach a lot of UFC or boxers or, golfers or whatever. And we want to have a goal to win the tournament, want to have a goal to win the fight. We want to have a plan to execute. We want to know what we need to do, but then we separate from outcome and we go into the process. We go into the journey, and we know someone's going to throw a hook we don't expect. We're going to take a shot we don't know. We're going to hit a shot that hits a tree and goes the wrong way. And it's this notion that you can control all of those things that is what creates all the stress and anxiety and gets you out of performance. So separating once you've prepared, once you know what you want, and just get into flow and without that attachment of outcome is what allows you to perform at the highest level and plug into that field.
Yeah, or get into that flow state, as they
Yes.
say. And I'm just curious, completely off the cuff, Ed. I know that you mentor and coach some of the world's most successful people, professional athletes in different fields and so forth. I'm just curious, like, what's one common denominator or one trait that they all possess that you find interesting?
What they possess and then what they want. It's interesting across the lines. I'll tell you what they want. They're all looking for more confidence, believe it or not. Even the top people in the world.
Really?
I watched, and I don't coach him, but I watched Brady play the first half this week, and he threw, I think, 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
And he just played unbelievable. He was slinging. I kept telling my wife, he is on today. The very end of the half, he threw a pick 6 from like the 5-yard line.
Yep.
Right into the lineman's hands. Terrible play. Not like him at all.
Yep.
And he came out in the second half and he started misfiring. He started getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker than normal. He was shaken. Even the GOAT's confidence can be rattled short term. So it's their ability. Let me tell you what it is. It's their ability to perform at their peak more often and more regularly than other people. It's not just that their peak is better or higher than other people. It's their ability to perform within a ratio of that peak more regularly. And when they get knocked down, they do get knocked down. They stay down far shorter windows of time than the people that don't perform as well as them. Other people get knocked down and stay down longer. They get up faster and get back up to that somewhere near peak level of performance and sustain it longer than the people that are near their talent level or in their industries.
Yeah, that's
the big separator.
Beautifully said, because let's be honest, spoiler alert, adversity is inevitable. A lot of people get crumbled by adversity, but the GOATs, the Tom Brady's of the world, like you just mentioned, I'm not saying they can necessarily eat it, but they understand, and then they go, they continue on.
Almost perseverance is too weak of a word.
Yeah.
They're just a little bit more resilient, a little bit more perseverant. And I think they also prepare better. I think their confidence often comes from preparation, not from just natural giftedness or skill.
Yes, that's deep, because I had someone on the show, Dr. Mike Gervais, the sports psychologist for the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson.
I saw that he was on.
Yeah, and I asked him, Ed, I go, how do the greats, like the all-time, the Tom Brady's and Michael Jordans, like when the lights are brightest, when the camera's on, how do they elevate their game like that? He's like, it's funny you should ask. It's actually, they go back and they revert to their training, but everyone around them succumbs to necessarily the pressure. So they actually come down a lot. And the greats, they just revert back to their training, kind of like maybe like a Navy SEAL or something like that. So it's crazy that you just said that.
It's funny that you say it, because Russell Wilson, who works with Gervais, was the first guy I heard say, and it's widely known now, but the separation is in the preparation. And when I'm working with them, that's what we go rely on, because everyone's trying to find belief. Everyone is. Belief, control. And so if you rely on talent, someone like a Brady will go, well, Aaron Rodgers is more talented. Or Russell Wilson go, well, Peyton Manning's 5 inches taller than me, right? So, but preparation you can control. And if you link your confidence to that process, then you're to some extent in control of your confidence level. So preparation is a huge thing. And even for me, I can tell when you do the show. I'm confident when I do my interviews because I've prepared so much. I can tell you do too. I'm not confident in me, like I'm this amazing interviewer, brilliant dude. Confidence in my preparation.
Same.
Right? I'm confident in that, and I can tell you do it.
Yes. Thank you, buddy. I received that. I appreciate that. I have to ask you this before we wrap up today. It's documented. Maybe not everyone knows that's listening, but there was a time when you weren't super successful like you are today, when they actually took your car away. And even as deep as say they shut your water off. And you talk about like anyone that wants to really win in life, so to speak, like there's a price to pay to win in life. Talk about that.
Well, one most important thing to know is the price you'll pay to make your dream come true is significantly smaller than the price you'll pay if you don't.
Regret.
So the price you'll pay if you don't make your dreams come true is a lifetime sentence. So I'd rather pay that price up front. The biggest thing is, I paid a huge price. I had my car repoed, lost a house, water was turned off, people laughing at me more than once, by the way. But the price, first off, It's what makes me so grateful for it now. It's like a good story, you know. The story would suck. It was like, yeah, I started and I won. You know, end of story. Like, that would be boring.
It's not relatable.
So, in hindsight, you know, but I have to tell you, here's the biggest thing most people don't do. This is just the real, because I know we're at the end. You better negotiate the price in advance. You have to negotiate it in advance. You have to decide what price you will or won't pay. For me, as long as legal, ethical, and moral, I was going to win. I will pay any price beyond doing something illegal, unethical, or immoral. And that's it. You are not getting me. You have to kill me. And there's one thing everyone I know, from the NFL to fighting to business to being a mother, has in common. And this is funny. What's their traits? Are they smart? Are they strong? Are they good looking? Are they resilient? Are they brilliant? Are they? No. Some yes, some no. It's this hodgepodge of stuff, right? Some of them can't even tell you how they won. In fact, most of them can't. I've interviewed them. I'm like, do you know? They really don't know. They did not quit. That's what they have in common. I know that sounds hokey, but what's their number one habit? Didn't quit. Then go look at all the people who lost. Some of them smart, some of them not so smart. Some of them educated, some of them not. Some of them prepared, some of them not. Some of them lucky, some of them unlucky. What's the one habit all of them that lost have in common? They quit. So the ones that won didn't quit, and the ones who lose quit. So there's this notion of the price, and here's what it's like. People that come from abundance don't worry about the price. They worry about whether it's worth it. Worth and price are different. When I was broke, I'd walk into every store and flip every price tag. What's it cost? What's it cost? I was constantly immersed in the cost. So I would never get what I really wanted. It was all cost-based. Now that I'm wealthy, I just ask myself if it's worth it. There's a price, but is it worth it? This steak's $200. Is it worth it? This bottle of wine's $3,000. Is it worth it? These sunglasses are $400. Are they worth it? That's different than the price. Ask yourself whether it's worth it. And if you negotiate the price based on worth, then you'll pay it. But if you just focus on the price you're paying, the price will get you eventually. Eventually, with enough failure, enough setbacks, enough pain, enough adversity, you'll relent, you'll quit, you'll sell your dream up the river. And some people, you know how they quit? With success. They are bought with success. All right, I got enough money now I quit. Or I've helped enough people, now I've quit. Or I got enough recognition, now I've quit. I won't quit. I'm not for sale. My dreams aren't for sale. Me as a man, my soul, my spirit, I'm not for sale. You can't get me with enough failure, and you can't get me with enough success. Neither one of those things will get me to punch my ticket. I am not selling out for failure or success. Why? Because I know the price is extremely high, but it's worth it. It's worth it. So focus on the worth and you won't sell out.
I love you, buddy. I'm sorry if I told you that a couple times, but I just got to be honest. This is great. Like, it's funny because I take such pride in elevating people's energy level or their state, right? Or their, the temperature. They do always say, you have me wanting to run through a brick wall right now. This is, we got to do a sequel. This is too good. But it's funny.
Running. Maybe I'll do one of those marathons with you.
Ed, I know you need an accountability partner. Everybody does. I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay, that is something that you and I need to visit about.
Okay. Have you ever ran a marathon?
I have not. No, I've run 26 miles in a day before, but it wasn't a marathon.
It does something to you. Not that you necessarily need it, but it does create a new point of reference.
Well, I probably need it. We can all grow. So that's something that we got to talk about for sure.
Okay. I would love that. Love that. The audience obviously is obsessed with you in 2 seconds. What's the best way for them to support you? And what's something really exciting that you have going on now that we could all support you?
The cool thing about my stuff is it's all free. I got a coaching program, but beyond that, my stuff's just here to serve. So if you go to my Instagram, Ed Mylett, at Ed Mylett, EDMYLETT, my stuff's there, edmylett.com. I got a YouTube and a podcast. I have one of the top podcasts in the world.
Yes, he does.
Add it all up. And so I think, I do one a week, and they're usually pretty compelling shows. They're about an hour long. I would recommend you get involved with that stuff, but probably go to Instagram. You can find everything there.
Yeah. And for the audience, 1 million strong, like, if you think what I have to say is credible, check out Ed's podcast immediately. Every single piece of content that he put, first of all, putting out great content, like, not enough people understand this. It's like a full-time job. Every single thing that you do, brother, every single story, but when you're going like this and you're telling a story, or every single post or podcast episode, it's thought out, it's strategic, it's awesome. And there's always something tangible that you could take away from it immediately. So I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. I feel like I try hard at that. So it's great that you see it. Thank you.
It's working. How can I personally support you, Ed?
Convinced me to do that marathon with you, and you keep growing, keep making a difference in the world. I went and reviewed your shows with a lot of my friends that you've had on, and you're outstanding at this, and it's making a difference, man. And I think the more and more you just continue to grow and step into the space, you're the future of the space, man. So continue to expand and continue to grow, and I'm going to do that marathon with you.
Done and done. Thank you so much for the beautiful words, brother. For the audience, all we ask, if you absolutely love the show, post about it, tag Ed and I, we'll restore it and so forth. I'm going to tag you on some stuff also, Ed. I got to say to you, my man, you're the definition of resilience, grit, heart, drive. You're making the world a better place by helping people max out to their fullest potential. Your mindset is absolutely bulletproof, and your faith is on a whole other level. You're an unbelievable husband and father to your two children. You're a role model and beacon of hope for anyone coming up today with big goals and aspirations. I can personally guarantee your best is yet to come. You have my word right here, right now. This is just the beginning of our relationship, and I'm going to hold you to that marathon, and I'm so excited to continue the relationship with you, Ed.
I am as well. Thank you for the kind words, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, brother. That was too good.
It was outstanding, bro. You're so good at this. You make it very easy. I know it's a little long-winded, but I loved your questions, so I want to give you good answers.
To be honest with you, usually we do a little bit of a background, like starting. We didn't even touch upon that. We just had a great conversation, and I think that's what's most valuable for the audience.
And it was so good, man. And the marathon thing we will talk about. So I got to.